She stood in front of our friends, smiling, kissing him, and then she said it. He's a real man. The room went still. My jaw didn't drop. My fists didn't clench. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared at her like I was looking at a stranger. But inside, I was already loading the gun. Not a real one. Something colder. More surgical. Let me backtrack, just for a second. That moment, that wasn't a slip-up. It was a performance. Planned. Scripted. Like some cheap reality show finale. My wife, Jessica, wanted to humiliate me. In front of our friends. Her friends. Even my boss was there. She kissed him, that tall, smug bastard in a button-down shirt 2 sizes too small, like she was announcing a new relationship on national television. He's a real man, she said. Loud enough so I could hear it through the music, through the alcohol, through the pounding in my temples. She wanted me broken. That much was clear. But she didn't realize something. I don't break. I bend. I wait. And when the time is right, I strike. I waited. I watched them laugh. I watched my so-called friends avoid my eyes. I watched Jessica wrap her arms around that guy. Brad, I think his name was. I watched her lips curve into that wicked smile I used to think was sexy. I waited until the room cleared. Until the fake laughter died out. Until the last stiletto heel clicked out the door. Then I stepped forward. Slowly. Calm. Cold. She turned, still holding Brad's hand. She looked at me like I was a piece of furniture, an eyesore in her new, upgraded life. Don't cause a scene, Kyle, she said, with that poisonous mix of fake pity and condescension. It's over. Be a grown-up for once. I didn't speak. Not yet. I walked past them, straight to the bar in the corner. Poured myself 2 fingers of that 18-year-old Macallan I'd been saving for our anniversary. You know, the one she said she forgot. I swirled it, sipped it, looked her dead in the eye. Then I finally said it. You wanted a show? Here's your finale. She laughed. That high-pitched, annoying laugh that used to be cute when we were in college and drunk on cheap vodka. What are you talking about? She asked, clearly enjoying herself. I slid the envelope across the marble counter. She picked it up, smirking like it was some pathetic love letter. Then she opened it. Her smirk twitched. Divorce papers. She flipped to the last page. The notarized ones. The ones that showed this wasn't impulsive. It was prepared. You all ready? She stammered. Oh yeah, I said, sipping again. Funny thing about real men. They don't fight for bitches. They replace them. Brad blinked like a confused golden retriever. I barely acknowledged him. Jessica's voice cracked for the first time. Kyle, wait. This is ridiculous. You can't just. Oh, I can. And I did. I stepped closer. Close enough to smell her perfume. The same one I bought her last Christmas. You thought this night would end with me crying on the floor? I whispered. Nah. It ends with you realizing what real power looks like. She didn't say anything, but her silence said everything. The lights in the room felt dimmer now. Colder. I set the glass down, buttoned my jacket, and walked past them without another word. Behind me, I heard her whisper something to Brad. A desperate whisper. Too late. She made her choice. Now she's going to watch how a real man ends things. And believe me, this is just the first move. The next morning, I didn't wake up angry. I woke up focused. I made coffee like usual. Took it black. Sat at the kitchen table of my new condo. The one she didn't know about. The one I bought in secret 6 months ago when I started noticing the cracks in her loyalty. I had a view of the city from the 12th floor. Peaceful. Clean. Far from her perfume-stained lies. My phone lit up with 10 missed calls from her. 3 from her mother. 1 from Brad. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up the file I'd been curating for weeks. Photos. Screenshots. Messages she thought were deleted. The AirTag I'd planted in the lining of her Louis Vuitton weekender bag had done most of the heavy lifting. She wasn't just meeting friends or staying late at the office. She was building a new life, with my money, on my name. She was sloppy, predictable, arrogant. I watched the video again, the one from the lake house. I'd had a PI install hidden cams in the place. She never even questioned why the power was flaky last time we stayed there. She just kept coming back, with Brad. And on the last visit, when she thought they were alone, she looked right into the kitchen camera and laughed. He's too dumb to ever find out. I clicked pause, then delete. I didn't need it anymore. The damage was done. She burned the bridge and poured gasoline on the ashes. That night, she showed up at my condo building. The concierge called up nervously, saying a woman named Jessica is downstairs, very emotional. I said, she's trespassing. Don't let her up. 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. Same guy. Sir, she's threatening to call the cops, saying this is her property. I chuckled. Tell her I can have the deed emailed to her in 5 seconds. Then ask her if Brad's place has concierge service. I hear basement apartments don't. She didn't get in, but she left a note. It was crumpled, rushed, handwritten. Not her usual pristine style. Her words were a mix of apology, denial, and desperation. I didn't mean it, she wrote. It wasn't supposed to go that far. You were always the one I counted on. She never said sorry. Not once. The next day, I sent the file, photos, receipts, dates, everything, to her HR department. Why? Because she listed Brad as her mentor on company forms. Inappropriate relationships between supervisors and subordinates are frowned upon. Her call came at 2:47 p.m. I let it go to voicemail. She cried in that message. First time I'd heard her break in years. I'm suspended, she said. They're investigating everything. Why would you? Kyle, please, why would you do this to me? To you? I didn't do anything to her. I just stopped protecting her from her own destruction. She used to laugh about people who let their emotions rule them. She called them weak. Victims. Said women had the upper hand because men always played the hero, never the villain. Well, this time, the hero burned the village down. Later that week, I bumped into Brad. Not by accident. I knew he hit that same gym every Friday at 6. He saw me walk in. Eyes widened. Jaw tightened. He looked around like someone would step in and save him. No one did. I walked past him. Didn't say a word. Just smiled. A real man doesn't need to bark. He let silence choke them harder than words ever could. He left early. Didn't even finish his set. The next morning, I received an email from Jessica. Short. Cold. I think we need to talk. I replied with a single line. Talk to my lawyer. She went quiet for a few days. Then I got a photo in my messages. Her, alone, at our favorite restaurant. The same table where we had our engagement dinner. No caption. Just her face, full of regret. Too bad. You don't spit in someone's face, then ask for a napkin. She made her bed. Now she's going to choke on the sheets. The silence didn't last. Jessica wasn't the type to go down quietly. By Tuesday, she'd switched tactics. The next message wasn't about reconciliation, it was war. You think you're clever? You think you can just ruin my life and walk away? That's what her text said. But between the lines, I could read the panic. She had no idea how deep I'd planned this. She didn't know I'd already transferred our joint savings into a new account months ago, legally, of course. Or that the car she drove, leased under my company's name. That condo she stayed in with Brad, also mine. I wasn't just walking away. I was taking the ground out from under her heels. By Thursday, I got a call from her lawyer. Mr. Bennett, he said, trying to sound composed. Jessica would like to request a private mediation before things go public. Public. Now that was interesting. Because I hadn't even touched the real weapon yet. See, Jessica liked to record things. Arguments. Bedroom talks. Even some of our therapy sessions, without telling the therapist. She used to say it was for reference, but I knew she liked to archive control. But she didn't know I'd found those files on her old MacBook. Or that one of those recordings caught her bragging to her sister about how she manipulated Kyle into giving up half his company's shares when he was vulnerable. Stupid mistake, Jessica. I had that backed up. Time-stamped. Safe. So when her lawyer asked me if I wanted to play this amicably, I told him the truth. I want her to remember every single decision that led her here. And then I want her to explain it to her future boyfriends while they're splitting rent in a one-bedroom walk-up. Click. End call. That weekend, I went to my lake house. The place where she brought Brad. I brought a box of her old things with me. Letters. Trinkets. That stupid live, laugh, love canvas she hung in our hallway that always felt like a thread in disguise. I burned it all. Every piece. I stood by the water, drinking scotch, watching the smoke drift across the lake like the last breath of our history. And then, as if the universe wanted a perfect punchline, my phone buzzed. Jessica again. Why are you doing this? I made a mistake, okay? Brad was a rebound. You're the one I really love. You always were. I stared at her message. Then I typed back. He's a real man. Remember? Send. She read it instantly. Typing bubble. Disappeared. Typing again. Vanished. She didn't reply after that. Instead, I got a call from my buddy Marcus the next day. She's going around telling everyone you were emotionally abusive, he said, trying to spin the whole thing like she was the victim. Classic Jessica. I didn't respond. I just smiled, because I knew what was coming next. A few days later, the HR investigation wrapped up. Both Jessica and Brad were terminated. Turns out, company laptops aren't private when you're stupid enough to use them to book hotel rooms and trade explicit messages. She called me in tears. I answered. First time in weeks. You win, okay? She said, voice shaking. You got everything. You happy now? I didn't answer her question. I just said, no, Jessica. I didn't win. I just stopped letting you pretend you didn't lose. She begged. Literally begged. Said we could start over. Said she missed our life. Our memories. That she didn't know how good she had it. I told her the truth. You had the best version of me. And you spat on him. What you want now is a ghost. Then I ended the call. That was the last time I ever heard her voice. A week passed. It was strange how fast the world adjusted without her in it. My mornings were quieter. My meals tasted better. I was sleeping deeper, breathing easier. The tension that had lived in my shoulders for 2 years? Gone. Like someone had pulled the knife out without me noticing. Then came the letter. Not an email, not a text, a physical letter. Sloppy handwriting, barely sealed. No return address, but I recognized it immediately. Jessica. I opened it slowly, half expecting venom. Instead, it was drenched in guilt. Or at least something pretending to be guilt. She rambled about not being in her right mind, about pressure, about how she never felt seen in our marriage. And of course, she slipped in that classic line women like her use when the walls start closing in. You pushed me into his arms. That was her final play. Victimhood. She wasn't sorry. She just hated losing. I didn't respond. What was there to say? You don't respond to a snake begging you not to burn the nest. It bit you first. Later that day, I got a call from her sister, Dana. We weren't close, but she always had a sharp eye, saw through the sugar-coated garbage her family threw around. Her voice was quiet, uncertain. Kyle, I heard everything. Jess told Mom it was all your fault, but then I saw the messages. The recordings. I'm sorry, man. I don't know what she's become. I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't have words. I just didn't care what anyone else saw anymore. This wasn't about clearing my name. It wasn't about justice. It was about truth. And I had mine. But Dana said one thing that stuck. She's crashing. She's trying to drag you down with her. Don't give her the pleasure. That night, I went through my phone and deleted every photo of Jessica. Every voicemail. Every stupid selfie from Paris. Every vacation clip where she was smiling while already plotting the next lie. It was like burning ghosts. I called my lawyer the next morning. I want it finalized. No delays. He agreed. Said she wasn't contesting anymore. Guess even she realized the game was up. But just when I thought it was over, Brad showed up. In person. At my work. I was walking to my car when he stepped out from the side of the building like a damn movie villain, arms crossed, jaw tight. She's a mess, he started. You happy now? You broke her. I laughed. Out loud. You think I broke her? I said. She broke herself. I just handed her the mirror. He stepped closer. Tried to puff his chest. She said you were controlling. That you. I cut him off. I gave her everything. Stability. Loyalty. A future. And she chose you. A placeholder with a gym membership and no spine. He didn't like that. His hand twitched. I saw it. Maybe he thought about swinging. Maybe he thought about trying to prove something. But I leaned in and whispered. She said you were just a distraction. Just noise. Want to know the best part? She called out my name once. While she was with you. That hit him like a hammer. His face went pale. His fists dropped. Then he turned and walked away without another word. That was the last time I ever saw Brad. And from that moment on, I knew I'd won. Not because she was suffering. Not because I crushed him. But because I had peace. And they would never have that. 2 months after I cut them both out, I got the final email from my lawyer. Everything was signed. Stamped. Official. I was no longer a husband. No longer legally tied to the woman who once stood in front of my friends and kissed another man like I didn't exist. There was no celebration. No champagne. Just a slow, deep breath and silence. Not the empty kind. The kind that feels earned. That weekend, I drove out of town. No destination, just highway. I let the wind through the windows wipe away the last traces of her voice in my head. Somewhere between mile marker 128 and a rundown gas station. I realized I hadn't thought about her for almost 3 hours. It felt good. Too good. But of course, peace never lasts long when a narcissist feels forgotten. I got a message late Sunday night from an unknown number. A video. I almost didn't open it. Curiosity won. It was Jessica, crying. Alone. She was in what looked like a cheap motel room. Her mascara was smeared, her voice trembling as she talked to the camera like I was on the other side. She said she'd lost everything, that Brad ghosted her, that she had nowhere to go. She begged for a second chance, said maybe this was the universe's way of showing her what she threw away. Then she dropped the line I'll never forget. You were my stability, Kyle. I thought you were boring. Turns out, you were the only thing real. I stared at the screen for a while. Then I hit delete. She wanted a response. A flicker of attention. Proof she still had hooks in me. But I was long gone. I spent the next week getting rid of the final pieces of her from my life. The couch she picked out? Donated. That framed photo from Napa? Trashed. The watch she gave me on our anniversary? Sold it and used the cash to upgrade my gym membership, my space, my time. That same day, I bumped into an old friend at the gym. Lauren. We used to double date with her and her boyfriend years ago. She'd always had a kind smile. The kind that felt like it didn't belong in Jessica's world. She was single now. Said she heard about what happened. Asked if I wanted to grab coffee. We did. Then we grabbed dinner. Then a walk through the city, laughing about memories that didn't hurt. It was light. Effortless. There was no pretending. Just presence. But I wasn't rushing into anything. Not yet. I wasn't healed, but I was healing. Day by day, lie by lie, piece by broken piece. And one night, after dinner with Lauren, I sat in bed alone, staring at the ceiling, and I thought about what I'd tell the version of me from 6 months ago. The guy who stood there, watching his wife kiss her lover like he was invisible. I'd say this. You didn't lose. You just got free. Some people are storms. And we spend years trying to build homes in the middle of them, thinking if we love hard enough, if we hold tight enough, they'll calm down. But storms don't stop. They move on. They destroy. And they act like it's your fault for standing in their path. I stood up. I walked away. And now, I'm building again. But this time, it's far from the storm. About a month later, I got a letter in the mail from the county clerk's office. Routine, dry paperwork confirming the finalization of the divorce. No surprises. No tricks. Just ink on paper. But what caught my eye wasn't the document. It was the envelope. It had clearly been opened and resealed. Sloppy job, too. Jessica. I knew her handwriting on the side of the envelope. She probably intercepted it, maybe tried to delay it somehow, or slip in one last message. But there was nothing inside but what the court sent. No note. No signature. No final plea. Just silence. And that told me more than any voicemail ever could. She'd run out of plays. Brad had moved out. I heard through a mutual friend that he blocked her after she tried faking a pregnancy. Classic. She'd always used desperation like a weapon, and this time, she pulled the trigger with no bullets. A week later, I was at a dinner event for a startup I'd invested in. Casual, smart crowd, nothing flashy. As I was heading to the bar for another drink, I noticed someone staring. Jessica's old coworker, Madison. She looked at me like she'd seen a ghost. Then she walked over, slowly, like approaching a lion. I didn't believe it at first, she said. Thought you were the fool in the story. I sipped my drink and smiled. Everyone does. Until the end. She laughed. Well, congrats. You're officially the legend in the office. HR still uses your case in training. I didn't need that compliment, but it felt good. Later that night, Lauren texted me. Just 2 words. Still up? We met for drinks. Nothing serious. No games. We talked about movies, food, the weird things you miss after a breakup, like sharing silence with someone who respects it. And as she leaned in closer, she said something I hadn't heard in a long time. You're safe to be around. That hit different. Because I wasn't always. Not when I was with Jessica. I was constantly second-guessing myself, censoring my tone, walking around emotional landmines. I wasn't safe. I was surviving. But now, with someone new, I felt steady. Not every day was perfect. Some nights I still woke up angry, hearing echoes of her voice in my head. The betrayal didn't vanish. It just faded. Like an old scar you don't notice until the light hits it right. Eventually, I stopped checking my phone every time it buzzed. I stopped wondering what she was doing. I stopped hoping she'd say sorry. Because by then, I'd finally understood something. Closure isn't an apology. It's realizing you never needed one. It's standing in your own life, looking around, and knowing, despite everything, they lost you. Not the other way around. I went to the lake house one last time before winter. The sky was gray, the air sharp, but the water was still. I sat on the porch, poured a glass of scotch, and watched the trees strip themselves bare without shame. Nature doesn't beg for forgiveness when it sheds the old. It just lets go and makes room for the new. And that's exactly what I did. By December, the cold had settled into the city like a secret. I didn't mind it. There was something honest about the cold. It didn't pretend to be anything it wasn't. Unlike her, Lauren and I kept talking, seeing each other once or twice a week. We weren't rushing. There was no pressure. She wasn't trying to fix me, and I wasn't pretending I was whole. We just met in the middle of the wreckage and decided to be real with each other. It was enough. One evening, as we walked through a Christmas market downtown, sipping spice cider, she stopped in front of a vendor selling old vinyl records and said, "You're different than the man I heard about." I looked at her. "Good different." She smiled. "Stronger." That word landed hard. Stronger. Because there were nights where I felt like all I'd done was survive. I didn't feel like I'd grown, just endured. But maybe that's what strength really is. Not rising every day with power, but rising at all, when everything in you says stay down. Around that same time, Jessica tried again. This time it wasn't a message. It wasn't a call. It was a knock at my door. I opened it, saw her standing there, shivering slightly, arms crossed, eyes red. She didn't speak at first, just stood there, waiting for me to invite her in. But I didn't move. "You look good," she said. I didn't reply. I don't know what I expected. Maybe to feel angry when I saw you. But I don't. She looked down, breath visible in the cold. "I miss you." I looked her in the eye and said, calmly, "I don't miss who you became." Her mouth opened slightly like she had something to say, some new excuse to spill. But I didn't let her. "You made your choice. And you made it loud. In front of everyone. You don't get to rewrite the story now." "I wasn't myself," she said weakly. "You were exactly yourself," I replied. "That's what scares me." She stepped forward. "Can we talk? Please. Just talk." I stepped back. "There's nothing left to say. You showed me who you are." And I finally believed it. Then I closed the door. Slowly. Quietly. No slam. No dramatic goodbye. Just finality. I stood there for a few minutes after, heart steady, breath calm. No rage. No sadness. Just clarity. She was gone. This time really gone. And the man she tried to humiliate in front of everyone, he didn't just survive. He became someone she couldn't touch anymore. Someone she couldn't understand. I walked back to my living room, sat on the couch, and stared out the window at the falling snow. In the silence, I realized something. She left me to chase something that sparkled for a moment, but couldn't hold weight. And I built something unbreakable within myself. Not for her. Not for revenge. But because I deserved to know what it felt like to look in the mirror and finally see a man who never needed anyone's permission to rise. The new year came quietly. No wild party. No dramatic countdown. Just me, a glass of bourbon, and the soft hum of a jazz record spinning in the background. I didn't post anything. Didn't answer the obligatory Happy New Year text from people who only remembered me when their drinks kicked in. I wasn't interested in noise anymore. I'd lived in chaos long enough. At midnight, I looked out my window at the fireworks bursting over the skyline. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like I was watching someone else's life from behind glass. This one was mine. Jessica faded. Completely. She stopped trying to reach out. Maybe because she finally understood, or maybe because she found someone else to ruin. It didn't matter. Her chapter was closed. Not bookmarked. Not left ajar. Slammed. Locked. Buried. As for Brad, word got around he moved cities. Started over. I didn't care enough to follow. I wasn't chasing ghosts. Lauren and we kept things real. Some days we laughed until it hurt. Other days we sat in silence. But there was honesty in every moment. No games. No half-truths. No walking on eggshells. One night, we were sitting on my balcony, cold breeze brushing her hair across her face. She turned to me and asked, "If you could go back, would you still marry her?" I thought about it, then shook my head. "No," I said, "but I'd still go through everything. Because it brought me here." That's the part no one tells you. Sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you is the exact thing that frees you. Sometimes betrayal isn't a tragedy. It's an introduction to who you were always meant to be. If you're reading this, If you're the man standing in a room watching the woman you love kiss someone else in front of your friends, listen carefully. Don't beg. Don't fight for someone who spit in your face and called it love. Let her think she won. Let her have the illusion. Because while she's chasing attention in cheap motels with men who only want pieces of her, you'll be building something whole. Not revenge. Rebirth. One day, she'll remember you. And on that day, she'll realize she didn't lose a man. She lost the moment she made a real man stop loving her. And that's the kind of silence she'll never outrun.